Hi everyone and welcome back to another employment video. Today we have Molly, who's a social worker with us, and she is going to be answering all your questions. Do you want to just maybe say quickly like what your job is and kind of what it entails?
I am a children and families social worker. So I work obviously with children and families, but in a huge range of, so I've got like pre-birth assessments. So for mums who are maybe expecting kids, if there's maybe some concerns from whatever reason, we'll do them. I work with children with disabilities, getting them self-directed support budgets in place and things. And then obviously the kind of more stereotypical ones that you'd associate with children and families, you know, like kids who've maybe been neglected or abused, or children who are just living in poverty and whose parents are working really hard to meet their kids' needs but maybe need some extra support put in place and things. So yeah, it's a wide variety of things under the children and families title.
Let's just jump in with the first question, which is, what type of person or skills do you think it takes to be a good social worker?
Okay, I did actually plan for this question because there's so many. There's so many, but there's also ones that you can totally learn as well. So the first one that I think is huge is being able to build relationships with people. Like, see, not just even service users, but like with other professionals and your colleagues and stuff. Like, being able to work well with everybody is so important. And I think like at the end of the day, yeah, it's a really difficult job and you've got to have some really difficult conversations with parents and with kids. But if you're able to kind of build that relationship up, then hopefully they don't come as a surprise, or you're able to kind of contain that conversation. You know how people communicate and they know how you communicate. So communication skills, relationship building is, I think, the most important thing. So that's number one, I would say. The second one, which is one I really do not think I have, which I would really benefit from having, is organisational skills. It's so important to be organised. Be organised. Take it from me, I am not organised, and it makes my job 10 times more difficult because I'm like running around trying to figure it all out. So organisational skills is a huge one. Another one that they speak about a lot, and if you are interested in social work, and you'll know this phrase as well, Catherine, and so will the people watching, is resiliency. I don't like that phrase. I think it makes it seem like life is tough, but you have to be able to get on with a tough life. And I mean, like, yeah, it is, but there should be ways of coping with it and things as well. It's not just like get on with it and stuff. And especially as a social worker, like the rates of burnout, like from other social workers, and no doubt probably what I'm going to end up being, you know, it's a really tough job. So I think knowing how to, like, some self-care, being able to switch off, and that's a key one, being able to switch off and have that separation between work and your personal life. Like, for me, that's still something. I've only been qualified now since July, so however long that is. So not long, but it's something I've really noticed is, like, I come home from work and I'll speak about work and I'll think about work, I'll dream about work, I'll see work on TV programmes and be like, oh, that's not how that should be done. And it's because I think it sounds bad, but it's almost like you care too much sometimes, and you do need to take a step back sometimes and go, this is my life, I can't stress myself out, I can't be thinking all the times. You've got to let families try and deal with certain things themselves. So being able to kind of take care for yourself and realise when you need to take some time for yourself as well is huge. I've got listening to people as the last one that I've said is really important. And like, not just listening, and you'll know this again, Catherine, not just like listening and going, yeah, absolutely, but like actually hearing what they're saying. I can sometimes sit for like half an hour and not say a word and just let families, parents, kids chat. And sometimes they solve their own problems just by having the opportunity to speak. Just because they've got someone who's sitting there listening going, tell me more, like what and how did that happen, and then off they go, and then
definitely.
And they feel so good because they've had someone listening who's not interrupted them, who's literally just sat and gone, this is your time. Absolutely. So listening is very important.
Okay, so next question, did you always want to be a social worker?
No. Well, what was our first degree in, Catherine? It wasn't social work anyway.
I did laugh when that question came in because I was like, I know the answer to that one.
No, I did not want to be a social worker. My parents were both social workers, and they both tried to encourage me to not be a social worker. So I always knew I wanted to help people, and it sounds so cheesy, but like just do some good, you know, help people, support people. So my initial degree was forensic psychobiology. Then obviously I went and did the Masters in forensic psychology, so that was the kind of road I thought I was going down. And then I went from working in the courts, which we did together in Dundee. So I then started working for the witness service in the High Court and the Sheriff Court in Glasgow. So that was again supporting victims and witnesses. And from there, I wanted to work more with the people in those kind of scenarios. And then I ended up deciding I wanted to go back and do my social work degrees.
It's really interesting to take both of us, we did the same undergrad course at the same time, and we both did this volunteering in like the witness service and victim support, and actually although our jobs have similarities, we're in completely different fields, which Absolutely. I think is it's a really good example of just because you do a certain thing for your undergrad doesn't actually commit you to
absolutely
doing a certain job.
It's not like set in stone, it's not concrete. And the thing, although our jobs just now they're so different, but the values and the mindset and everything is the same, really, isn't it? So
you mentioned there qualification in social work. So are there specific qualifications you need to be a social worker?
Yep. So to be an actual social worker, you can either go, which I should have done straight away and done my undergrad. Should have gone straight away, not wasted the last 7 years or however long it was. But it's all learning. It's developed me into who I am. It's given me the skills now, doing those other courses that I've managed to bring into my job as a social worker. But yes, so you can go straight and do your undergrad in social work, which I think is just like the a normal 4-year undergraduate course, and then you can be a social worker. Obviously, I did it a bit more of a roundabout way, and because I had previous degrees, I did the Masters in social work. So it's a 2-year course, but at the end of the day, it's the same job. So just because someone's got a Masters and someone's got an undergrad, it doesn't mean you're not going to get paid anymore for having a Masters. It's just the way I went around doing things. You need a degree in social work to be a social worker, but there's other roles within social work. So in my team, there are social workers. My team is about 35 people in total, the whole team. And I think about 19 of us are social workers. And then we have social work support workers, who I think are kind of like the band below us, who do a lot of the same stuff. They just don't take on kind of as high tariff cases, and they don't obviously have the same responsibilities that social workers have. And then there are social work assistants as well, who quite often do facilitate all the contacts and things that we have between families and kids and stuff. So there's lots of different roles within like a social work team. So if you want to work in that field, you don't have to be a social worker. You can do other things within the team, but they're all, we all work together as a team, and we don't really distinguish between each other. If you can start working maybe as a social work assistant, and then you can go and do the open university courses that you can do kind of whilst you're working there and all that kind of stuff. So there's quite a lot of different ways to get into social work.
What is the hardest thing about your job? I'm sure there's plenty of hard things. But...
Yeah, what is the hardest? I think seeing families and parents who clearly love their kids and want the best for their kids, but they experience difficulties in kind of facilitating that and looking after their kids, because you quite often get parents who know they're struggling and know they need help and don't know how to get it or don't know how to access the support. So it's really difficult seeing parents who want the best for their kids, but they kind of are lost, and even when they do have social work help, sometimes it doesn't help, because there's only so much social work can do. In my opinion, we do loads, and I do loads, and I care so much about all my families that I work with. So it's heartbreaking sometimes when you just see the outcomes just not happening, and it can be really difficult watching families and kids especially who are relying on their parents making positive change, and sometimes it just doesn't come. So yeah, that's really difficult.
Yeah, that is really tough. How do you cope with that, and also like the cases that don't turn out how you want, or the really sad cases? You mentioned like resilience and self-care.
Yeah, so I rely a lot on my team. My team are absolutely amazing. So if you do go on to be a social worker, you get you'll have a senior who is like your go-to person, and if you're lucky, if you have one like me, they'll be great. You can phone them all the time. Obviously, lots of Skype calls and things like that just now, rather than just going into the office and seeing them face to face. Any big decision or anything I am not 100% about, I will speak to my senior. It's my assessment. I can say, because of these reasons and because I've observed X, Y, and Z, this is what I think should happen. And then she can support me either to follow that through or to kind of rejig my plan or whatever. But yeah, your team hopefully should be the best source of support you can get. I love my team. We're a wee family. But and like my actual family as well, like Ewan is great. He listens to me rant non-stop. Obviously my mum's great as well. She's a social worker, so she's like, rant away, I know what things are like. But I think, especially with lockdown and stuff, going out for a walk has been like the most, it sounds so cliche just now, but like just, I've been trying at lunchtimes when I'm working from home, like both of us will try and we'll actually put like a wee 45 minutes in the diary and we'll go for a walk, the two of us. Just get some fresh air, get some sun if there's sun going, just to try and chill, just try and debrief, because otherwise it can get on top of you if you don't try and manage it. And I still love a Domino's and a glass of wine, so that's always my go-to as well.
Once you go into one type of social work, so once you've decided to like go into children and family social work, do you have to stay in that, or can you like change what type of social work you're doing?
So you don't have to stay in that at all. You tend to get children and families as your starting post, because I think it underlies, it's the basis of every social worker has to understand child protection, because whether you're working with adults or people who have been convicted of offences, it all comes down to child protection at the end of the day. So you need to have that understanding of children and family social work. And I think everyone said it before I qualified and before I got my job, and they were all like, oh, you'll learn the best in children and families. But oh my God, they were so right. Like, I've been in this job since July and I have learned so much. Like, it's insane the amount I've learned and developed. So you're not stuck where you are. You can just apply for other jobs in either different local authorities or the same local authorities, but no, you can go from children and families to be justice or community care or specialist teams as well. There's so many teams out there. There's loads of teams. Eventually I want to end up in a justice programs team. That's what I want to do. So that's like group work with people convicted of offences and doing group work with men and women. I did that for my first placement and I loved it.
I was thinking that. I was like, I remember you doing
that. Good. It was so good. It was amazing. And people always think that, offenders and group work, and in your placements you have to do direct observations, so you'll get assessed, either doing something directly with whoever. My very first direct observation was with a group of about 9 male offenders who were convicted of a variety of offences, and everyone was like, oh my God, that's going to be really difficult. They were great. They all knew, they knew I was a student, they knew that I was wanting to be a social worker, and they were all on their best behaviour throughout that whole, like, they were so supportive of me. They knew I needed them to help me and to work with me, and they were brilliant. They were so good. So yeah, that's eventually what I would like to end up doing, is some sort of programme work. So that's completely different from children and families. So no, once you're in a role, that does not mean that that's where you stay forever, but it does for some people.
Last question then is, what is your favourite thing about your job?
My favourite thing is probably working directly with kids. I've got loads of kids just now that I'm going to school and I don't even work with them. I just go in and have a chat with them, and we'll play some games, and we'll just, open up conversation like that. But this wee girl in particular, she saw me one day at school and she was like, Molly's here. She came running out of class, and I was like, oh, that's a good response. So that totally cheered me up. That was me for the rest of the day, like, so chuffed. When families have the outcomes that they really, really work so hard for. Yeah. And they deserve it. So that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
It's a hard job. Like, I'm not going to lie at all. Like, it's a really hard job. And at times I do think, what am I doing? And I'll have a good cry and I'll be like, this is the worst decision I've ever made. And then other times I'm like, no, this is worth it. It's difficult, but it's worth it. And it's worth it for these families who, if they don't have a social worker who's there for them, who actually wants the best for them and who wants to listen to them, because I know social workers don't have a good reputation at all. Like, I'm not blind to that, but in the main, social workers are trying to do their best for people, and it's difficult trying to juggle everyone's needs and everyone's wishes, because sometimes the wishes of the parents aren't the wishes of the kids.
Yeah.
And they totally are totally different to each other, and it's trying to balance that. And at the end of the day, I'm here for the kids. I'm not there for the parents, and I'm there to make sure the kids are safe and that they're doing well. And it's trying to remind yourself of that sometimes, because obviously sometimes the kids don't have as much of a voice as their mum and dads do. Mum and dads will phone you and tell you what they think, but you've to properly work for the kid to be able to get their voice out there as well. So we only want the best.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really important though, to talk about the like hard bits about it and talk about how tough it is, because like you're much better going into jobs with like an open eye about how difficult it is than getting the rose tinted glasses view of things and then being like, oh, this is a lot harder than I was expecting. Thank you so much for answering all those questions and being so honest about like what it's really like. That we really appreciate that. It makes a big difference. And thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you go and check out some of our other videos that we've got up. There are plenty of other interviews, including one with Molly's sister. So you can go and watch them all and figure out which one's Molly's sister. Okay, thanks for watching everyone. Bye.